back. Welcome to our live from the Gamescom show for 2017 Spectacular Extravaganza Extraordinaire. I'm your host, Community Content Manager, Jared Huckabee, and joining us for this hour on our happy hour segment is none other than the incomparable Mr. Erin Roberts. Erin, how you doing?
Not too bad.
Hello,
everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the show today.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's nice being here, actually, seeing everybody and everyone playing the game and stuff like that. It's been fantastic.
Have you seen anything particularly cool while you've been here?
Oh, in the show itself,
Yeah.
sort of stuff. I've spent most of my time in the business booth.
All right. Now, the business booth, for folks who might not be aware of how this works, there's the big flashy show floor booth that's available to the public. The B2B booth is where Chris spends most of the time, and Erin, of course, doing live demos for members of the press.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yep. And that happens every single year, and it's often a precursor to much of what you will see on Friday at our Gamescom presentation live from the Gloria Theater at 7 p.m. UTC. Now, for this hour, while we have Erin, we're going to get right to brass tacks. We're going to take full use of our time. We've got our community broadcasters, Sergeant Gamble, Meyer, and DJ Knight. They are in the driver's seat this hour. They're asking your questions live from Twitch chat. So if you're watching on YouTube or you're in our own Spectrum chat, if you want to ask questions of Erin Roberts, please go to twitch.tv/StarCitizen and enter your questions there. You can preface your question with the word question in capital letters surrounded by brackets. That's going to help these three gentlemen pull those questions out between all the other chat detritus. You ready, Erin?
Yep, all ready to go.
All right. It's your show, guys.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again.
No problem.
Okay, so we had a few questions that we asked Brian earlier yesterday, and I thought that maybe we should ask those ones again, just so we can kind of establish a kind of like a base point before we move on to other places.
Okay.
So my first question to you would be, so right now in this demo, what we've had is a lot of fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been able to fly our ships, we've been able to ride the rovers, go to the bases. So what can we expect from what we have here to the actual release?
So what we're showing here is basically you're in 3.0. You're playing on a planet's surface. What we've done is basically turned off the ability to quantum travel.
Right.
And so you're basically just staying on one planet, and just you can see how much you can do just on one planet. Just when you're just messing around, having fun on there. And obviously
Right.
we have in 3.0 has a whole solar system.
Yeah.
And so in there, you obviously not only have the planets and the moons. You have we have the different moons. We have obviously the space stations. We have obviously new systems in play for 3.0, including trading, the whole new 2.0 system which you've seen here in terms of the ship side, in terms of how the mobiGlas works, how you take missions. There's been a huge amount of work which has gone in behind the scenes in the technology to bring it all together.
Right.
Which is one of the reasons why it's like there's so many different moving parts in terms of trying to get this together that we're obviously now plowing through all these issues to try and get 3.0 to everybody as fast as possible.
Right. Awesome.
So following up on that, obviously we heard from Brian yesterday that it is a combination of all kinds of details that are bugs and that are keeping 3.0 for pushing to life. What for you and your team has been, up till now, in the development of 3.0, have been the biggest blocker for you?
There's a few, because you're basically trying to get getting some of the systems in place is one of the big ones, and so you have and then also supporting we've obviously been in the middle of rewriting the whole multiplayer infrastructure because we need it so we can basically we can have server transfers going on, so basically we can get more people into the system. So there's a lot of different things going on. We basically came up with the whole system in place, so we can stream in and stream out objects, again we call object containers, and so we can basically stream the different elements in when we need them, we don't need them. We're still working on some of that tech. Right. In fact, some of that tech is more likely to come in for later on down the road for 3.1 than 3.0, but still we have a huge amount of stuff going on there in terms of putting gameplay systems like we talked about, like trading, about the ability to lift and carry stuff, to do missions, to explore, to get the new type of weapons in terms of the FPS side, getting a huge amount of new clothes and customizations, getting not only getting the ships working 2.0 but also getting ship items working, so you can actually now start upgrading your ships, so you can basically put new power plants in, you can do all that kind of stuff. This is a load of stuff just coming together. Right. And then getting all that to work is one big thing for the rewriting we're doing.
Right, exactly. So you mentioned player amount, for example. Do you have an initial aim that you want to go for on the first release? Like, how many players are we thinking about?
I'm probably not going to go into numbers now, but we're obviously going to push to get as many as we can with 3.0. But then that will then exponentially increase as we go through the new, as we get a lot more of the multiplayer support in, and as we get like the elements we're building in, and as we go to 3.1 and so forth, then we'll increase the amount of players that can be in one instance at the same time.
Right. Can we expect 24 plus from the beginning? Is that something you can share?
You can expect what we have now, and plus probably more.
Right. Okay.
Now, you mentioned items.
Yep.
You know, a lot of people are big on the items. We've got the new interaction system to where everything is completely different in terms of having to use the F key to actually focus on individual pieces of your ship. So that gives a little bit more detail. So that helps out people that are ready to get it in play. That helps out people that are ready to get into role playing. Is this the first implementation of that? Is there going to be more added to that sort of system?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be, so the interaction side, obviously we have the F key now, so it makes it very easy, so you can press F, you can see what you can interact with, and you can look at it, and you can do the stuff. But there's a level of detail in terms of not just how the player does stuff, but also as we go forward, the AI will interact as well, in terms of, AI actually have routines they'll go and do. They'll go, if they're a maintenance person, they'll go around and they'll maintain areas of the ship and fix things and so forth. And it's just getting that level of detail where you could actually follow a AI around and see what it does. Like literally, the AI will go to bed and sleep, and then get up when it's time, wander off, do his things, get some food when he's hungry, come back, sit down, and that's what we want to. So you can actually just wander around this world and see this sort of living, breathing, sort of like world. Coming together, and then as a player you can do lots of the same sort of stuff. So if in terms of like the Item Port 2.0 stuff with the really cool stuff, like we've got the proper oxygen systems in there now. So if you're not wearing your helmet, then you've probably seen and you can see it here in 3.0. If you basically unequip your helmet, you will die because you're in vacuum. And the same thing you can do in ships, and so you can now in ships or even in space stations, or you can basically remove oxygen from rooms, and then obviously people, if they're not in their helmets, will obviously die if they don't get their helmets and so forth. So there's a lot of inherent gameplay coming in. Now let's say if you're attacking someone's base or something, you can just create a vacuum quickly, try and get some people out that way, or they could do the vice versa. They could go take the power down, which then takes all the life support systems down, and you have to get that fixed before they kind of take the ship or the space station over.
So you mentioned NPCs moving around, doing their own thing. That's part of the new subsumption system.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so how deep does that go? So you mentioned that they have day cycles or like life cycles, throughout the day. Let's say, for instance, like I'm a bounty hunter on a planet, like let's say Arcor, and I have a mission where I have to go take out this guy, and generally he has a pretty safe schedule. Will I be able to see him one day and he has a name, and then if I log on the following day, will he be there? Will that NPC be persistent, or will the NPCs just kind of be entities that spawn?
They will be. Well, it depends. So some of them will be created for for specific missions and so forth things. But a lot of the system also we want to build is basically creating almost more sort of global sort of events. And so on an NPC side, so probably will be spawned, but they will exist and so forth, things like that. But on a player side, obviously we want to create, if you become very notorious as a player, then we want to have that sort of, interaction in terms of people will hear about you. There might be news bulletins about the players doing this and so forth. Missions might be created to go take that player and so forth and things.
Okay.
But on typically on an NPC side, yes, you'll get a mission, and then basically you'll then go do there, and you can come do it with obviously as many people as you want to go to that location, but typically those missions, they'll be there. They obviously will go there. I mean, we wouldn't want to set it. I mean, we could actually set up a system where you do work out what time of day they'll be there and so forth, and go there, and we actually can do that. But typically on the sort of first set of missions for 3.0, you'll go there. Then, obviously if you accept a mission, then basically you can. We obviously ensure that your objectives are there at that time and so forth.
Okay. Right. So. Another question, a bit completely different.
Can I get a little follow-up on the actual, what we're talking about now?
Okay.
Like you were talking about the whole NPC system, that they will have a cycle that will go, they wake up, they start their day, they do their things, and then, go back to bed. Like, how much of an area are we thinking about? There will be important NPCs and there will be less important NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
Are the more important NPCs actually able to travel in a wider variety of space? So would an NPC, for example, at one point be on Terra and decide to get into a ship and fly off to a moon?
At the moment we're talking mostly purely about basically in a location. So,
Right.
like, you know, if you're on a planet, then the NPCs would operate in that planet, they'll do things in that location, and the same on ships and so forth, and the same deal. And we haven't got, I mean, you will have NPCs who do that, but that'll be much more in the base of a mission or something
Right.
like that, where we create and they do that kind of stuff and things like that.
Right.
Okay.
On the topic of NPCs and the subsumption system, if we're talking about, say, you mentioned bounty hunting, that's something that I'm looking forward to heavily. So if, per se, I was a bounty hunter and I got a mission to take out a specific NPC who just so happened to be running a shop or something like that, would my taking them out remove that shop completely, or would it just be more time before somebody else comes along as an NPC to kind of take over that position? Because the shops in the economy are going to be extremely important.
You will, yeah. I mean, basically, I mean, what would happen is, and that's there'll be what will happen is if you take out, say, a shopkeeper, then another shopkeeper will obviously come along and take over that position, but not straight away. And also, in the full system, obviously, right now we kind of have these armistice zones, but once we have the actual proper AI working, then we're going to, you know, we're not going to stop the player. There might be one or two locations where you have to check your guns in, like, you know, like you know, and like, you know, the sheriff might have taken it in the old west and stuff, so bring guns into town. But most locations, you can basically, you can use your weapons. If you do, however, there can be serious consequences for it. So, you know, not only will the security of the police come after you on that location, but also other players will basically be able to go and take you down as well and things like that. So we want to have that sort of system. So we allow people a bit of freedom to do some stuff, but obviously there's consequences for doing it in certain locations. If you're in some Wild West town, then maybe there aren't that many consequences for it. But if you're in the middle of a a well-policed UEE port, then it's going to be, you're going to have some serious Marines taking you down.
One of the more common questions, I'm going to jump in here real quick. One of the more common questions we get is about missions that involve other players, or counter missions, as they were. What can you tell us about how missions and counter missions will work in 3.0?
So when you say counter missions, you mean in terms of...
Like, he gets a mission to go take a box. He gets a mission to go protect the box.
Right, yeah. I mean, because what we do is the system... It's actually the way the whole system's been written and ground up, which is a lot of stuff that Tony Jurovic's been doing, is basically because we know what we create, we also then know we can spawn other things from it. So it gives us a lot of nice free play where we can push players against each other. So exactly something like that. And we're talking about, we can just say, well, you need to go down and take out. We know that basically this company has hired player X and and his guild, let's say, to go and basically protect this big cargo run. Now, at the same time, because we know that, then we can have on the seedier side, mission comes along saying, hey, this cargo run here, basically, you take it down, we'll pay all this sort of money, we're trying to stop all these minerals from getting to this planet to try and get stuff, and so we can just play players against each other very, very easily, and I think very effectively to create that sort of like, that really sort of nice gameplay of player versus player, along with AI as well, in the midst of all of it.
So that's the kind of situation where you can take the lore of an area or a specific pirate group disliking another pirate group, the specific item spawning that gives, all right, you go get this, and the other pirate group would then have the opportunity to come in and get another mission simultaneously to take.
They'll go down, and you can go and they'll put it out there, and it may be a group that you've got a grudge with, or it may just be someone's paying some money if you want to take the cash. On that sort of level, and then even on that sort of level, you can have, the great thing about this is that you have group 1, which is basically protecting the cargo. Group 2 comes in to try and take the cargo. Now group 1 then, in the middle of gameplay, because of the new some new sort of systems will be coming on, which will be in 3.1, not 3.0, is we're also going to give the ability, well, you'll be able to do some of this in 3.0, but you're going to be able to then ability just like to basically do a sort of an all points broadcast and say, hey, we've been attacked here, we're going to pay you, I'll pay you like 100,000 credits if you come and help us because these guys are attacking us. And so you can then all of a sudden get another set of people that might come in and help out and things like that. And it'll be completely sort of player driven.
So it has the ability to affect the economy based on the local situation, but you also as a player have the ability to add more to the economy to get more people involved.
Yeah, 100%. And then you have the economy side, it's literally, because it's going to be supply and demand. So, if a place needs to build ships, it needs a lot of raw materials. If the raw materials aren't coming in, then basically there'll be missions created to get more raw materials. But then there might be missions created then to stop the raw materials coming in because someone doesn't want them to get the raw materials. All this kind of stuff goes on. So
that's sort of how, when Grimhex was introduced, all of the electric weapons were just like, hey, we don't have any more of those, and you got a surplus over at Grimhex.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I wanted to tie a few questions from chat together. So So basically, so with 3.0, we've got the new procedural moons, and with that, we've kind of got the birth really of survival mechanics within Star Citizen. We have oxygen, we have the stamina system. So what else do we have planned for survival in general? Say you're stranded on a planet. Will things extend over to things like food, water, or that kind of thing, or do you want to keep things more simple?
We will, not for 3.0, but we certainly intend to make players, as we go forward, we want players to sort of, be as, I guess we want it to be, as immersive as possible, is what we're looking for. And so, yes, you as a player, you will need to eat food. If you're getting hungry and so forth, you eat food, and if you don't eat food, then your life stats will go. And obviously not like in 10 seconds, but if you go without food for like 2-3 days, then you're not going to be running as well. There'll be some effects of that. Same with water. Same with if you don't shower, then we want NPCs and other people to react to you slightly differently, right? If you go without a shower for a week, then someone will go, "Whoa, dude, get a shower," And someone may just say, that kind of level of service. Want that kind of stuff and things to go on. So it just feels like that's a level.
And when you mean 2 to 3 days, you mean 2 to 3 days of real lifetime playing the game, not like 2 to 3 days like of a cycle on one of the moons.
Basically, we haven't completely decided on what the timelines for that will be. So I don't want to sort of like make any sort of like. Statements now that this one, but we will definitely come with a timeline which makes sense. So it's not, we don't want it to be so much of a chore that it's just not fun, because there's no point in that. But we do want to have certain things levels where there's a reason why you have certain things, a reason why you want some food, a reason why you go and sit down and have dinner, all that kind of stuff.
And this is why all those mess hall animations and all those weeks of ATV were so important.
And one last question, I guess, about survival. So we have the survival of the player now, but also of the vehicle, of the ship. So right now, everybody is spawning in on Daymar, and you have your ships, you have everything, but everything has finite fuel. In the past, in 2.6.3 and before, you'd have to go to Cryastro and restock, repair, refuel. How is that going to work when you're on planet side? Is it that there will be none of these kind of facilities so you can refuel your ships, or so you will have a more limited time to go visit a planet? We have to think ahead, otherwise you'll be paying more insurance.
It depends. Obviously, if it's an uninhabited planet, then yes, you would basically make sure you go there. You've got enough fuel to get back, or you could call a friend to obviously with a Starfarer to tank over some more fuel for you and so forth and things like that. And so you'd have that sort of ability. But there will be as we like I've said, in 2.6 now is basically there'll be stop-off areas where you can go get fuel, you can repair and that kind of stuff. And there is in obviously 3.0 on the different on some of the moons as well, because obviously Levski's obviously basically it's a huge moon-like asteroid, and you can travel across and things like that. So.
Awesome.
All right, moving on to a couple of ship questions. It's been a couple of months ago since we've seen the last updates on the bigger capital ships, like the Idris, like the Javelin. Could you do a little status report on how we're coming along on those?
Very well. All those ships are used in Squadron, so that's a big focus for us. So we're basically doing that kind of stuff. Obviously, we hope to show that stuff very soon. To everybody, but in terms of that, we're basically the cap ships have been built, inside, outside in and so forth. We'll be needing for Squadron. Obviously, there will also be a lot of them will be available in the Persistent Universe for people to play in and things like that. So I don't want to do too many spoilers, just in case. Okay. But it's but also and then of course now we're moving on to the Vandal ships as well, which are great. These big old cap ships. But the whole idea is, like I've always said, you will basically get in your Idris and you will be able to fly it for your friends, you'll be able to man the turrets, you'll be able to do all that kind of stuff and things. So and you actually can right now, so it's kind of cool.
Right. So speaking of ships, you are part of Foundry 42 in Manchester. So you were involved with the big picture, basically, like the larger ships. So of all the ships that are there that you've made, that you've overseen, what can you say is the most impressive one to you so far?
Wow. Well, I mean, the Bengal is huge, and and that's pretty. I mean, you saw some of the stuff that Nate Beardsley did in terms of his team, in terms of showed off some of the shots of the Bengal and so forth.
Right.
And that's pretty impressive shit. and then of course there's a few others there. But in terms of scale, I mean, we have, I mean, that ship's about 1 kilometer long. We have you know, we have one sort of station in Squadron, which is like literally, I think, 12 kilometers large.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Fully fleshed out.
Yeah, and stuff like that. It's like, you know, so you can go and, well, I mean, you know, it's a large part of the Squadron gameplay, so it's a huge location. So you can imagine that kind of stuff remains.
Awesome.
A lot of questions about the Origin ships as well. The 300 rework, maybe a little snippet about how the 600 series are coming along.
Yeah, no, really well. Yeah, it's just like
we know.
We've got we have in all the. I mean, like I said, we're reworking all the ships, doing really well, and actually all these ships will you know, a lot of the ships everybody's talking about will drop with 3.0. So everyone to see all this new stuff, and you've actually guys been playing with a bunch of stuff here as well. So it's like, but yeah, it's the ship team they just power through lots of stuff. Really good. We've got a very good pipeline going. How we do get stuff going through. We've really refined down the metrics of how we put the stuff together. So making sure that when we make a cockpit, how we do it. We're now going back and looking at the cockpits like you've seen with the Gladius. You know, we've really got the seat a bit higher. Got more visual impact. And now you can actually see a nice big chain gun there when you're firing stuff. You know, that kind of stuff. So we've been doing a lot of work to try and get that stuff. You know, really get those sort of improvements in to give a much better experience to the players.
Right.
I'm seeing a lot of excitement in the chat about things like player careers and things like that. So I believe there'll be no mining in 3.0 like on launch, from what I've gathered. But are there any player careers, like any beginnings of things that you look forward to that will be in 3.0?
You will be. I mean, we're basically going to. I mean, cargo running will be available, so people will be able to basically buy, sell cargo, take it. Missions can be created around that in terms of, you know, someone's trundling off of their cargo that you spend a lot of money on. You might go there and try and take it off them. So you can basically go. You can basically try and take their ship down. You can blow it up. You can steal their cargo. You can grab their cargo, then sell it yourself. And there's a lot of different that sort of gameplay in there. And then also obviously a lot of the bounty hunter sort of stuff talked about. And a lot of different sorts of missions you can do, like go, find stuff, retrieve things, and so forth, whether it's on a planet or in space, or all this kind of stuff and things. And then the idea would be for mining to be the next thing that we would basically go for straight after 3.0.
So when this patch 3.0 comes out, so right now. Original players of the game are used to spawning in Port Olisar if they are a good guy. If they've done some naughty things, then they'll spawn in Grim Hex. Will we be able to choose our spawn points in 3.0?
So 3.0 is the first. It's the first set of actually going for proper persistence. So in 3.0, your ships will persist, your items will persist, and also where you actually stopped will persist. So if I basically fly to a location and then I log out of that location, I will then reappear at that location, not at either Port Olisar and so forth. So basically, where you end up and where you're going to be. If you want to get back to another location, you don't have a ship, then you better get a ride with someone to take you back there. And then on the ship side as well, if you do damage to your ship, that damage will persist, so you need to get it fixed up and so forth. If you basically get your ship blown up, then you'll have to get another ship back through your insurance.
Right.
But also, once again, if you've gone and put lots of cool stuff in that ship, then the insurance really just gives you back the base model, so you have to go get that stuff again. So we want players to start being precious about what they have, because right now you have a ship, it blows up, you just get another one, and the cycle returns. And some people go up and do silly things or just whatever. Whereas we've got to we want to get it to where there's a real reason to have your ship, and also you want to take care of your ship. So. Excuse me. If you're getting in trouble, you may actually think about getting out of there, rather than sort of hanging around just to get blown up. Right. Because then it's easy to get a hold of a new ship quickly and so forth.
And how will that affect respawning? I mean, I know the big picture when the game comes. Yeah.
You'll respawn if you die. You'll respawn in the last main location, which has a medical facility.
Okay.
That you were at.
Right.
So not the nearest, but the last one you were at.
Yes.
Okay.
You can set. The idea is you set a location. And you say, right, this is where I'm going to respawn, and so and that will take you to the nearest one. You'll basically, and it should be the last one you're at for that. I think if because you're telling them where you want to respawn. The only thing, there are one or two things that we're talking about in terms of the game side of that to make sure that people can't gamify that as well, in terms of like go, oh well, I'm going to set this last location over here, but I'm halfway across the universe, but I can quickly get back there for that. So obviously,
so it's going to be a mix of trying to find somewhere near to where you are, but not necessarily
exactly. And if you're in a ship and you basically log out and you're in the middle of deep space, then basically the ship will then probably hang around for a few seconds to make sure you're not just logging out to, get away from being destroyed. But then at that point, you'll then log back in that location. You'll be back in that ship in that exact airspace when you log back in again.
Right. Awesome.
But we obviously we know we're going to have a lot of work to do in terms of as we get the systems working. People will find ways of let's say playing the system, let's say, rather than abusing,
right.
And then we'll have to work out ways to make it fair. So everyone's having a good experience.
So we're talking about a real big implementation. 3.0 is going to be huge.
It is bigger than, when we first talked about what we're going to do for 3.0 and then we actually got into what we've done and the technology behind it, it's been a huge undertaking. It's actually going to be the biggest, I think, people will, we really want to get into the hands of Everkaki at first and then to everybody else. But I think when people actually see exactly what's in there and all the systems, including the new mobiGlas stuff, the mission, and loads of different things are in there, then people see just how big and how much stuff there is. I mean, like I said, just here, everyone here is just wandering around on one planet, just having fun. Right. We're going to have loads of different locations, things to do, and all that and that sort of stuff and things.
Right. So following up on that, how is the netcoding coming along? Can we expect, like, we've been working with the 2.6 version for a long time, and we've heard a lot about the new netcoding coming into place. Can we expect, obviously, maybe not right from the start, but up to a certain point that we can expect a minimum amount of frame rate that we're dealing with?
Yeah, so what we've done is we have literally torn out everything that was there before because we had to, because it was never made to make anything of scale. And so what the network guys have been doing is basically rebuilding the literal fundamental sort of core sort of tech underneath the system, and so a lot of that core tech is now in. There's more to do, but actually a lot of the work that goes in isn't just the fact that they have to write the core tech in terms of how to efficiently pass the information to make sure that that stuff's being combined and then sent, and a lot of the things just to get like a lot better network speed performance, and in terms of obviously reducing the packet sizes. But it's also about if the guy's making sure but then what happens is the gameplay programmers then have to take that work and then they have to go through all the gameplay systems and make sure the gameplay systems are calling these routines. So it's a huge effort, not just on the network side, but everybody. Because when we basically go, we make sure, okay, well now we've got this great new system for transporting it, but for whatever reason, the way we on the FPS team does some of their stuff doesn't work as efficiently with that. So then they go in and they basically go and put all these calls in to do it that way to basically get the to improve the performance. So I guess what I'm saying is, as we go through every system and then we basically move it over to the new stuff, then it gets more efficient and faster. So it's a process which happens over a period of time, and we've been doing that now for quite a few months. So people should notice with 3.0 a lot better, latency stuff. I'm sure when we first go out there'll be bugs and stuff like that, but we'll basically work through those, get the stuff going in, and it'll get a lot faster. And the other really important thing is all the work they've done is actually is the basis of the server transition stuff, which is what we need to really get a bunch of players in there.
Right.
So when we can have a server control anything from a room, if we want to have a load of people in that room, to a system, and then we can transfer people seamlessly from server to server, then all of a sudden we can put everybody in one game universe, because all we do is we just increase the amount of servers depending on how many people are in there, and then if there's a very popular room on a single planet, then we may just say, God, there's like 500 guys want to be in that room. All right, we'll have just one server that cares about that room, and when they walk out that room, they'll then pass it to another server, which is then controlling the road outside, and stuff like that, and so forth and things. So the idea, what we want to do is get everybody. We don't want to have, we'll see where we end up, but we really are working hard to have everybody plays in the same universe, so we don't have to have like different instances. But we'll see where we get to with it.
So, piggybacking off the question about the netcode, I remember not too long ago there was an ATV episode about how they were describing how they were planning to reimburse that. So right now there's a lot of data going between the player and the client, and that they're kind of shortening a lot of that data and then sending them out in bursts, where everybody's sending those bursts at the same time. Since we're talking about FPS, will that help to keep the servers cleaner as they run longer. Because one of the things that I personally noticed is that when you hop into a server, you can tell if it's been up for a while just due to the FPS. So will that help that system, help the FPS in there as well?
I mean, that is due more to the fact that there's probably, typically, there's probably like a slow memory leak. And what happens is the server, after the longer the server's up, then it's more chance then memory gets like corrupted, and then it causes problems and so forth and things. So what we do in that case is we're more trying to hunt down what those problems are for fixing that issue. But what they're talking about more is going to fix just because the problem is the server. So if you're the client, you only care about certain things like what's around you and so forth and things. So I don't care if there's a ship like, you know, the other side of the solar system. I only care what's around me, and so we can optimize the client to that. The server, unfortunately, has to care about it all because it has to know, what every single client's doing, where they are. So it literally has to keep the whole. It doesn't actually have to render the world, but it has to keep the the sort of physics in the world, which is very expensive. And so what we are doing, spending a huge amount of time is getting that much more efficient and doing the stuff, because another reason why you have the problems where you see like some of the rubber banding and so forth is also due to the fact that the server speeds get very slow because they've got such a weight on them. And so if the client may be running at 30, 40, 50, 60 frames a second, but if the server's getting hammered, it's running at like, sometimes 6 frames a second. And so at that point, it's only really getting, so the update time, it may be fine on your side, but then by the time the information gets to you from what someone else is doing, because the server is just really struggling, it's not the information. So we spend a lot of time, in fact, with the 3.0 time, and it's great, really invest a lot of time on it to really get our server times back where they need to be. So now we've got the server running at 30 FPS, which makes a massive difference to how it will affect everybody else, because as you're saying, it will affect people's performance and what they see if the server's slow, because sometimes it stalls waiting for the next instruction from the server about what's going on, and that can cause problems on your end.
So by lessening the data and sending it all in pulses at the same time, that is bettering the FPS for everybody, as well as allowing the server to stay up longer for smoother periods of gameplay.
Yeah, we get the packet size down, and that sort of stuff, and that does help the latency. It helps a whole bunch of stuff, but also just having the server, being able to cope with the load is a major win.
So last year we saw for the first time a mission giver Miles Eckhart.
Uh-huh.
So in that, the player actually approached him and they spoke to him and they gave him the mission.
Yep.
In the game, as it's an MMO, it's a multiplayer game. How are you going to handle multiple people trying to go to the same quest giver? Is there an elaborate queuing system for that, or is it that only one person will be able to meet him in a locked room and the others have to address him with their mobi-glass? Or
we'll basically have we'll have a sort of a queuing system in place where you basically, if there's a lot of people just happen to be going to the same guy in one go, then basically whoever basically takes the empty seat next to him, or however that works and so forth, and things like that, we'll work on. Once again, we don't know what the load will be like, because obviously right now there's like one mission giver.
Right.
But obviously when we go out there, we're going to have lots of different people doing lots of different things, and so hopefully there won't be everybody going to one person at the same time.
Right.
But if that's the case, we'll have to work and look at that, and if what we think will work doesn't work, we'll just have to basically work out a new way of handling, like a massive queue of people.
So a queuing system in a way of instancing that specific scene?
No, we don't want to do that. It would be like we'll try and work out some way where, like, some people are in the room and so forth. It'll be like. So if you're, let's say, Eckhart's sitting there, then the way you would basically get in there is you basically click on the seat next to him, and if someone's sitting in that seat, then you can't click on the seat. If someone leaves, then the next person will then click on that seat. Now, obviously, it could mean someone who's been there an hour keeps on missing out on the click, but that's kind of, at the moment that's kind of the way it works, and obviously we'll then. Then we'll change it if we feel like it's just not working as well and so forth.
Will we be able to, and this is a really big one for me personally, will we be able to share missions with friends?
Yes.
Because that would be amazing, because that way you can get the one mission from Miles and then, get your buddy and then go together, instead of like, Miles is like, all right, you're next, come on, okay, and he gives them the same story.
Yeah, I mean, with 3.0 you can, the other thing you can do is you can basically when you're basically quantum driving, you can link to your friends as well, so they all quantum at the same time as you, all this kind of stuff as well. And also we're putting more work into allowing people to get in with their friends a lot easier.
Right.
So basically the idea is you will be able to now the work's ongoing right now, so it will be for 3.0. But that's what we want to get. We're going for 3.0. But you'll be able to actually go in and have a much easier way of getting in with your friends, so you can play together in the center.
Right. So will we be looking at some sort of homesteading then at 3.0 at the beginning, like having a combination of actual hangars coming into the PU as well?
Well, yes, you have. When the way it works now, you land your ship, you walk away, then your ship is then basically it's put away for you until you want it again, and so forth. So that's how we clear out the stuff. We also have air traffic control. So now you'll ask for landing, it'll point to where you're going to go land, and then you go land there, and then once you've walked away from the ship, it'll then basically it'll then remove it. You go do whatever you want to do and so forth, and then you can go like, oh, I want to go now and buy lots of commodities for my ship. You can go do all that kind of stuff and things like that, and then basically you put it into the ship, and then it'll reappear for you when you need to leave and so forth.
Okay.
But we will be instancing your hangars, so it won't be 3.0, but we will have a situation where where you will be able to actually go like you have the hangar in that room now, but you will be able to go in there and there'll be an instance of your hangar, and you can do your kind of stuff and things like that.
Right.
Okay, because that's actually tied into something I was going to ask in regards to the hangar. So once you have I know you mentioned that if you die somewhere out in space, you can pick the next medical place, that the last primary medical facility that you were at or somewhere close to that. I imagine so is that like a temporary kind of like a hangar situation to where you can park there? If you, per se, get your ship blown up, so you go back to that station and you revive, can you then order your ship to be delivered there and then make adjustments to it before it arrives?
Yes, you can order your ship, but obviously this is where we go into the whole supply and demand thing. If you're flying around in Aurora, then yeah, they'll probably be able to get one to you pretty quickly. If you're flying around in Idris, then they don't just make those every 5 seconds. So they may say, oh well, you lost your Idris, so you've got another one on the way, but there may be there'll be a sort of time they'll take to get a new ship. And so I imagine a lot of players will probably have more than one ship because they'll want, oh well, okay, I'm waiting for this one to come back, but I'll fly this one here and I'll do this kind of stuff, things like that. So it just depends what kind of ship you've got. The more expensive the ship, it's like if you want to, for instance, you go buy a Ferrari, right? You're waiting like 12 months to get it, whereas if you're going to go buy a Ford, well, you can just walk onto the forecourt and buy it straight away.
Right. And that actually kind of ties into something that someone asked in the chat earlier. What are some of the costs and challenges of operating a capital ship like the Idris? So if you have something like an Idris, what as a player would you need to keep in mind if you were going to try to, say, take it out for a test drive?
That's an excellent question, actually.
Yeah, I mean, number one, obviously, fuel's going to be a big part of that. I mean, we see the Idris as not it's a ship that you're going to have to fly with your friends or with your guild, whatever, your group or whatever you want to call it. So because it requires so many positions. Like one person can pilot it, that's fine, but that one person can't basically do all the weapons or the turrets need to be manned. If things go wrong, if power systems go down, there needs to be an engineer to fix those systems because they have the equivalent of sort of like all the ships have the equivalent of transport layers for how power gets to a place. And so everything. The great thing about the 2.0 system is you can just turn off. If you turn off the power, then it just turns out everything just goes black. It's off. You can see they're doing the ships right now. It just goes like the ships will actually drop, and if you see it, just go bang straight down because obviously the power's gone. And the same for a big capital ship. So what you need to do is basically have people who are repairing the systems. If you get hit, then the way the power is transferred from, say, the power plant to, say, the shields is through basically a number of conduits which have basically fuses on them. And if the ship takes damage, the fuses get overloaded, those fuses blow. And so an engineer's job would be to reroute power to get the shields back online, or then even send someone to the physical location where that fuse box is, which is somewhere in the ship, which are placed all around the ship. Go there, get a new fuse, take it out, put a new one in to get the shields back online before you take more damage. So it's going to be really cooperative. I mean, I see people when they first get on their Idris will just be doing drills, before they even get into combat to try and get as good at doing this stuff as possible and things like that. It's like, but there's a lot of that, and that's why you have to repairing. We have items, so we have people who go around and repair and do the stuff. There's the different systems. There's obviously not only is the weapon side, there's the shields. You've got the engines, you've got the stuff. We've got obviously we've also have we talked about the ability to also hack systems as well. So you need people who are defending against that kind of thing as well. All these kind of things.
So I had that kind of linked to one more thing that I was thinking when it comes to the player when it comes to vehicles. A lot of people don't know about electronic access and that you can earn your rec through Arena Commander, Star Marine, and that sort of thing. Will there be a way in 3.0 for a player to rent a ship that they don't have access to, so they can kind of give it a test run for it or something?
Well, I mean,
similar?
you'll be able to buy it using Alpha UE.
In 3.0?
Yeah, that's the idea. Is basically the idea is you know we do stuff like that. It's not doing any kind of stuff and things like that. So that's obviously the whole idea is if you've obviously been good enough to support the game and obviously got a package and stuff like that, then you have the ship to fly. But also the idea is we're going to be earning as we go in, we're going to be earning money, so you can buy items for your ships, you can do stuff like that, and also and get the other stuff. Now I have to say for 3.0. Actually,
waiting for you to finish your plan.
Yeah. So, but I actually think that's probably not going to make 3.0 now. It's more like 3.1. But the idea is everything else you can buy up, you can do all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So not the first major, but one of the further down the line,
Yes.
like closer to.
I just want to reconfirm that is ship purchasing with Alpha UEC. It's down the road. It's in the pipeline.
Will it still be a
But
temporary
not
thing?
3.0.
Like compared to Rec, will it still be a temporary thing, or are we actually talking about buying it with Alpha UEC and having a persistent kind of thing going on?
Sorry, say again.
With the ships, DJ was talking about the Rec system. Will we have like some sort of an equal system in 3.0? And you said like that it would be possible at a longer run to buy that with Alpha UEC. But will that still be like a temporary thing?
I am actually not sure about that right now. So I think right now we can only do it. You can only do Arena Commander, and I don't think we've transferred it over to 3.0.
Right.
But I'm not 100% positive on that one.
Yeah. Basically, it's a system that's still being explored and worked on. So you can expect to find a lot more about it in a future ATV when it comes time to cover the systems of 3.1.
So you talked about players having to interact with each other because, again, Star Citizen is a multiplayer game, and the intention is to get people to come together and work together to be able to accomplish things. So when you were talking with DJ about capital ships and having people like run there to do this, do that, the other, I know there are many people who they favor a more, I suppose, single-player experience, yet they as well own those larger ships. Mm-hmm. What is the intention for, how easy would it be for them to also operate those ships?
Well, we're going to have, obviously we talked about we're going to have AI that you can hire to do that, so we'll definitely have that, but an AI is never going to be as good as another human player, probably. I mean, they'll be able to do
maybe as good as Meyer.
So basically, so we can have them obviously man turrets for you, to do engineering tasks and so forth and things like that. So we will have that ability. So if someone really wanted to just have their Idris and pilot it themselves and then have other people do something, then we plan to have that. But that AI functionality for that kind of stuff won't be, it's not planned for 3.1. It's beyond that side of things.
Well, we literally have time for one more question for Aaron Roberts before we have to let him go. So who's got it?
We can go with one of the questions that we already had. You mentioned a lot of some of the bigger things that are keeping you from, like, that are not going to be making it in 3.1 or that you're working on in 3.1, like one of the biggest blockers that you've had. So what is one of the things that you and your team have taken care of as far as pushing out 3.0? Like, what is the most impressive thing that you've seen that's been fixed?
One of the most impressive things we got working with it's unfortunately, but would be a bit of a spoiler, so I can't really talk about it. But you may find out in a few days' time.
Okay.
But in terms of really getting the 2.0 functionality for that kind of stuff is actually the biggest, is one of the biggest wins for us in terms of basically getting that interactivity going with the player and how all that sort of interacts. It affects so many different systems, and that's one of the big ones. And of course, I could go in for minutes on all the tech under the scenes that's been changing to make all the stuff work. And there's so much work that's gone in, and from everywhere, from from the multiplayer, from the render side to, we showed you some of the render texture stuff now we have and things like that. We've got some other cool tech and stuff like that we'd love to show off at some point.
Getting there. All right, Aaron, thank you so much for taking the time to come and do this. I know it's... thank you so much.
Well, that's great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
And Gamble, Meyer, DJ, you did a fantastic job. I love These are my favorite happy hours ever because I just get to sit here and relax and listen. I never get to do that. So thank you so much. Guys, we will be back at the top of the hour with more Star Citizen Alpha 3.0. Thanks.